Okay. Well, it's a very, very long journey, of course, for me because I grew up in a family that did not practice faith at all. And my parents were just, let's say, living during the communism time in Ukraine, especially east part of Ukraine, where communism took very, very deep roots. And majority of families who we were surrounded by, and it was a taboo question. Nobody talks about God because God does not exist. And plus, I grew up in a city which called Zaporozhye city, and that city was meant to be a city without God. It was a dream of Lenin to build something similar to Nowa Huta in Poland. So it was supposed to be the city very industrial, very hardworking class, and people that can uprise the Soviet Union, and but only one exception, that God should not be known because He does not exist. No, so my grandparents, they immigrated actually from Russia. It's near Ukraine, right on the border of Ukraine, and they immigrated. They were very young. They moved to Ukraine because it was promised prosperity, and they were very poor. That my grandmother probably, well, and she is the most religious person in our family, I think, because you know, when I was 7 years old, she called me to herself and she said, "Valentyna, I have to teach you something." And I always thought that she was very religious. Somehow, she always had a holy water in her house, and she had an icon in the corner of her room. And that's where she said to me, "Come here. I want to teach you how to pray our Father prayer. Just in case God exists, you must know this prayer." And so I was about 7 years old at that time. She got me this prayer, and I knew this prayer, but I never used it because none of my friends anywhere in school, especially teenage years, we never talked about God. We were, let us put it this way, we were very embarrassed to even touch that subject. So I grew up completely without faith at all. My mom, uh, during the Easter time, she would bake special Easter bread that we make in Ukraine, and we would color the eggs. But it was because Easter bread was tasty, and it's just something that people did rather in a superstitious way, you know. However, I was baptized by the miracle because everybody else was doing that. Just again, in case God exists, you know. And I was baptized as an infant. My parents did not even remember the day of my baptism, so for them it was not important. The fact that I have been given uh, into the hands of God on that day, it was just superstition, rather that the evil will not devour the child and things like that. So that was about it. And I would become to know God only um, around 20 years old, really, when I moved here to United States. Yes, well, I grew up without father. My parents divorced when I was 5 years old, and that hunger to be, that the childlike hunger of being embraced by the father, of being loved by the father, of being let's say nurtured by the father, was so much deeply within me. And I I miss that presence of the father very much in my life, so it was void. And when I moved here to the United States, I was 18 years old. I in fact I won a lottery to come here. It's well known here in America. It's not that extremely, let's say, surprising, because many people do win this lottery. It goes green card lottery. And so I had no idea that I was even playing this lottery. My mom, she entered me there, and only when I won, she told me that news. So I had no idea that I would go to the United States. In fact, I really did not wanted to go. I was so young, and I was 17 at that time. I did not speak any English. I was just thinking about only, about my friends and school, and so it was not that something I was looking forward to. But then I understood that, okay, so I will be 18 years old and completely free in the United States, without any parents, without anyone to uh, kind of navigate me through life. But so when I came here, of course, as every immigrant feels this tremendous difficulty encountering different culture, different people, the way how people live generally, So I was also struggling like so many others. And probably about a year and a half, I have entered into such a difficult time in my life that I just had no desire whatsoever to look into the future, because to me the future really did not even existed, because I knew that from seeing around me so many broken families, no, not really even single one good example of faithful love. It's just that the people who were around me, surrounded me, let's say at that time, was just very difficult to find, because they also lived without God, and they were mostly Russian-speaking communities and Russian, Ukrainian-speaking, Slovenian countries basically, and also trying to survive, let us say, working really hard, and but I could see that void in them too, and I felt that within me, and I just thought, so what is the life actually about? Um, how can I live this life? Does it have any sense? So I was just entering into something that I think for many young people very familiar. Um, that struggle, that suffering, that unexplainable void within. So, and one morning, it was I just remember this morning very vividly, that I woke up and I felt terrible, just terrible. And I remember that prayer which grandmother taught me. In case God exists, say our Father prayer, and maybe He will come to help you if He is real. It was like if. So I had already nothing more uh, to reach out for, and so I thought I'll give a chance to this prayer. I give a chance to God. And so what happened when I prayed this prayer, I just remembered so much till this day, is that I stopped in these words. It's just like our Father, and then I understood it's not just our Father. It is my Father for whom I have been seeking, wanting, and so much. He's right here, and He is reaching to me right now. So I felt His presence. It's very difficult to describe. I wouldn't put this like into any rank of anything mystical, but it was just that peace, which I needed desperately to survive and next day, Things begin to change really fast. I felt joy that I have not experienced in many years. It was just always within me some kind of a, like, let's say, um, half a joy. I would be joyful outside, but inside it would be another story, And but it was joy all over, inside and outside. And very soon, in a matter of few weeks, I was just so excited to live this life with my Father, because He entered into my life that way, and I just really do not know God in any other way. Uh, any kind of just let's say, random spiritual being or energy or any of that. He entered into my life as a father, and I just completely felt his daughter. That was very powerful. In fact, in about a few weeks, I have pretty much lost all my Russian speaking, Ukrainian speaking friends because they couldn't have anything to do with me, because all I wanted is to talk about my father. And if nobody would want to talk about this, I had nothing else to talk about because everything was said before and it was empty. And now I was feeling that I'm talking about someone, and I begin to experience that actually around me, at least, nobody knew what I was talking about who I'm talking about. It was just a little bit about faith here and there, but nobody could really explain to me who the Father is, because I did not know Jesus or Blessed Mother or the saints. I know of them from the very, very long distance, because I think everybody in the world heard name Jesus, and Mary, probably. But it was so far away. To me, it was Father. And it was really interesting that at this time I was learning English by watching American movies with the subtitles. And I love to watch movies which were 18th century, early 19th century, where it would be very good pronunciation of English. So, and I would watch with subtitles, and oftentimes it would be movies, with have something to do with the Catholic Church. And I was just captivated. And at that time, I felt that the only person probably who knows about my father, it is that man who wears the black with a white square on his neck. So I wanted to meet one of those people, and it would, of course, come a little later, in my life, when I would just begin to uh, enter a little bit deeper, into that love story which Father has invited me. So, it means to be uh, completely embraced, and, like, let's say, invited to live his mystery, invited uh, to that preciousness, to that individual love that he has for each one of us, uh, with such a power, with such a strength, with such a omnipotence, and yet so humble, that want to love with first invitation, almost like asking, can I please love you? And my love for you that much, and my providence in your life that much, that I want to actually experience that in your life. And whatever it's going to be, we're going to be living and doing that together. And I'm giving to you, that that everything through my son, and make everything incarnated to you, which makes everything just like a wedding and dowry. Everything I created for you, so you will know your bridegroom. Your bride will know her bridegroom. Sorry. I think in many ways I have been very spoiled by his love, because in fact it was the moment when when Father needed to really deeply introduce me to Jesus, because my relationship was so much of being nurtured by that fatherly love, and it is Father who introduced me, let's say, to Jesus. And it's almost difficult to put into the words. Mm, maybe because it was taking some steps and a length of time to begin to understand several things, in my life too. But it's just that I find incredible. It's like a father introducing to Jesus. Oftentimes it is Jesus normally introduces to the Father, because his dream is throughout the Gospels that all of us will know about the Father. He was like, especially in the Gospel of John, he's just absolutely referring everything to the Father, no? And in my story, it was like seems the opposite way. He was introducing me, Father introducing me to Jesus, and I remember through prayer one time I was experiencing, let's say, the way how Jesus prays to the Father, and it was such a power and love that I felt almost, if I could put it this way, I hope it will be understood correctly, like uh, a beautiful jealousy with the way how Jesus loves the Father. And I wanted to love him that much as he loves the Father. And it was invitation at that moment. It was a tremendous change for me. That invitation of Jesus, now come and love the Father with me that way, because I will show you the way how to love him through everything. So it was incredible. It was really real experience for me. You know, I live very, very busy life, and in a mission, um, Chalice of Mercy brings so many, let's say, works in a day, no? As any mission really does. It's just a general life for all of us is very busy. And I think it is of just allowing him to lead the day, living in that present moment is difficult task, but very beautiful in many ways, because there's oftentimes um, uh, like we almost like plan too so much our life, and there's nothing else is able to enter into our very very little primitive square that we have placed ourselves in, no? But the uh, Father is giving us such a beautiful freedom. Is that if you could just picture how the father is holding a child um, by his fingers. You know, when the child begins to walk, first making the first steps, the fathers or the mothers stand behind and they just give the fingers for the child to hold on to. And so the child is really navigating, but the father is holding, and and the child keeps going forward, and the father stays behind and watching, and the radius of everything that child is going to walk, and protects that child, because God is giving us that freedom to do, to live, and to express our gifts, all of the things that is within us, as long as we hold his fingers, because he's not going to be pulling. He's uh, too much loving our freedom, and too much want us to love him for who he is, not for what he can give us, but who he really is. And so he's not going to, let's say, pull it out. He's always going to be inviting and trying to redirect us if we go to the wrong way. And so it is for me, is just to hold his fingers, that hold him tight, because I know that he, as long as I don't run too far from him, and really want to participate in everything. But we have to give him also freedom to express and not to control too much, So I have been learning this and still learning this every day. No, for example, this year is very difficult for all of us. No, a lot of things has been canceled, especially for missionaries in the world. Plans, and we had a lot of plans this year through Chalice of Mercy. All of it is canceled, and I'm still here in the United States. I should be already in Ukraine or some other country, but I'm here, and and it's this Thanksgiving, because I see that how much providence he brought uh, every day of just being here, and the mission continues. Then I think, like, what if I would be choosing to, no matter what the cost, to go back to Ukraine, no matter what the cost, to do, all of the things that, I have planned to do. Um, I would miss out on all of these incredible opportunities that comes every day in my life personally, and in the life of the mission. So it's giving that freedom and not being afraid of unknowing, because there's no such a thing in God. It does not exist. Everything is known by Him. We only enter into the day which is in God. We always enter in God. We just have to have that confidence and that abandonment into His providence for us. I would say that a lot of times the fears we live, the anxieties we live, the preoccupations, and a lot of times, let's say maybe 80% of it, it's something that we just um, it just happened to us because we know theologically about God, as the study of Him, but we do not know Him really, really discovering Him. No, there's one time, actually not that long ago, I was invited by my friend to give a testimony to the young people. They were 17 years old, confirmation school, confirmation classes. And at this point, uh, mission was so overwhelmingly big. There was so many things happening, beautiful things happening. But at that time, I was just feeling that exhaustion, maybe let's say physical exhaustion, in some ways spiritual exhaustion, even. No, and I could see that mission is growing, but at the same time, I was hungering more for God so much that I would do anything to uh, I would do anything basically to have that time, um, stop time, of just being with Him. But I could not see that happening. So, and at the same time, I was hearing this, and many people would say, "Oh, how beautiful these works are! How beautiful the mission is, and how beautiful you are, how beautiful instrument you are in God's hands." And at that time, when I would hear this, I would feel something like it's like breaking within me, and I would always like silently ask this question, that person, do you mean I am just an instrument in God's hands? He is my Father. And instrument is something that we use, not we use for achieving something. And God is never using us to achieve anything besides to give us first love, so much that with this love we will be able to love another person, love the life that we live in thanksgiving given to God through our life, no? And I was just feeling very, let's say, each time broken by hearing this. And I think it needs to be, of course, understood in the right way, because we hear that even Mother Teresa would say, I'm a pencil in God's hands. And it does, and saying that I just would like to be your instrument. God, I would like to be your instrument to be, bring the good works that you do to this world. No, bring this through me. But it was the moment that I was leaving and rediscovering that I'm not an instrument, in fact, and the Father is not using any of us just at the cost of conversion of so many people. But He wanted to, for us to know how much we are a beloved son and a daughter. Exactly that. How much we are so belong to Him that it is Him before anything is going to do everything, and we would just enjoy His closeness and His presence in His suffering and in His joy, and then everything will be happening in our life, no? So, and I thought, going to the young people to this confirmation class, I was just telling to my friend, I really don't want to go, because I think young people right now at this time, they just don't want to hear successful stories about some kind of a mission somewhere in the world, that while they are dying inside of thirst for God and not knowing how to be, and they hear a lot of these things that we must do, but not about who we must be, no? And I was myself living, like, let's say, a little crisis in that. So he said, but please come anyway. Well, at the end, I said yes. And I shared about the mission and started sharing about that, how God is not, how God sees us, no, exactly, precisely that, son and a daughter, the beloved, worthy of dying, worthy of, worthy of bringing every suffering that on the cross, no, through Jesus, just for one, and just for one, that love is so much expressed. I would just encourage everyone, and myself including, that never forget that. Um, uh, Even the story, of a prodigal son. No, when he comes back to the father, father is not telling to him, now I'm going to be using you. I'm going to be, you're going to be now repaying everything back. No, he is giving him what the royal father would give, to his son, restoring his dignity always. Is that not to forget that only when we could be, in fact, just recently, just thinking about so much, what is that responsibility of the Christian? What does that make us responsible Christians, no, in the world? Somebody brought this up, and I was thinking that the word responsible means uh, to have ability to respond. To respond to what? To the love of God, that given through the Father, to the Son, through the Son to the Father. And that love is that penetrating Holy Spirit so powerfully given to us when we just invoke. But the main key is to invoke as a child would invoke, no? Just the way how Jesus has taught us to pray. And never, like, not to forget that somehow always go back to this original plan of God, no? Original plan that before anything, before you could be instrumental, let's say, for doing anything, you have to know who you are. You are, this is your first vocation in life, no? Before we will become doing something with God, and let's say that living consecrated life in a priesthood, monastic life, missionary life, married life. Before anything to live that well, to respond to that, no, we need to respond to first call, son and a daughter. You are my beloved son. You are my beloved daughter. And then you can respond to have ability to respond to what you're going to do through Jesus in this world. Then it could be called, let's say, instrumental, no? But it's rather to first to understand, like, your roots, who you are, how you belong to God powerfully. You're, in image and likeness of God, how you belong to Him. Во имя Отца и Сына и Святого Духа. Аминь. Отче наш, сущий на небесах, да святится имя Твое, да придет царствие Твое, да будет воля Твоя, как на небе, так и на земле. Хлеб наш насущный дай нам на сей день, и прости нам долги наши, как и мы прощаем должникам нашим. И не введи нас во искушение, но избавь нас от лукавого. Аминь.